everybody, welcome to Pita Party the podcast, and today we have Hannah.
Yay!
So today we're going to talk about getting into yachting, and we're going to share our stories of how we got into yachting, how you guys can get into yachting, and yeah, what it's basically about. So maybe, Hannah, do you want to start? How did you get into the luxurious, fun, exciting,
big bad world of yachting?
Exactly.
So I actually had a horrible breakup, and my mum, I know every good story starts with a bad
always.
breakup.
Every time you move country or something like that, it was a really bad breakup, and then
Some of the best things happen.
Exactly. You'll know I've broken up with Josh if I come on my Instagram with like red hair or something. No, so so my mum basically wanted to kind of take me out the situation and give me a bit of a break. So we went on a 6-week trip to Europe. And it was so funny because we were negotiating where we were going to, and I really wanted to go to Cannes because I'd seen the film festival. And so I think she got somewhere else, but I got Cannes. And we were staying at this hotel, and we were going to go up to Grasse to the perfumeries.
That's
And
where
the
I was born,
concierge was like,
FYI. Fun fact.
Oh, really?
oh my
Yeah.
god!
Daisy born in grass.
Well, now
I
I
didn't really
feel-
get the pun until I was older.
Did you have a perfume made with your name, Daisy?
I didn't. I'll have to go back and do that.
Well, now
Sorry.
I feel bad about the rest of the story. The concierge was like, don't go to that shithole.
Well, grass doesn't have a huge amount going for it. It was only in the hospital. We lived in the south of France, but yes, I was born. Don't worry, I'm not
I'll
offended.
forgive you then. I'll forgive you. No, so he said, he's like, go to Antibes. It's like this really cute little village. And, you can go and see all the super yachts, and there's the Picasso Museum. So we went and did the walk along Billionaires Lane, which is where, as you guys know, all the massive, massive yachts are parked. And then my mum went to the Picasso Museum, and I went to the pub, and it happened to be the Hop Store.
Oh, of course. For anyone who doesn't know,
yeah.
the Hop Store is a very, very well-known Irish pub in Antibes, which is a hot spot for yachties. If anyone's looking to network, which is a big part of yachting, you need to get down to the Hop Store, get a couple of Jaeger bombs in you, and you'll probably...
No, don't get too drunk before you get your first job.
Yeah.
And get on the bar.
Yeah, you'll either get a job or get laid, one or the other, so...
Sometimes both.
Yeah. A lot of times both.
No, and the funniest thing is I went into the Hop Store and asked where an ATM machine is, but he was like a French bartender. And so he gave me I think his cell phone or their machine or something. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, technology. And he's like, no, don't be silly, down the road. And I was like, oh my God, you're so cheeky. And I ended up falling in love with the south of France, coming back, finding what I could do there, which was yachting. And I went back into Hop Store, and the same bartender was there. And I was like, oi, cheeky. And he goes, oh, yeah. And then for our 11-year friendship, he was only known as cheeky to me.
Wow.
That's really
So how old
cute.
were you when you got into yachting?
22.
Oh, wow.
Fresh.
You were young.
Baby. I'd
Yeah.
already been in the workforce for 8 years, though, so...
Wow.
Good for you,
And
yeah.
did you dock walk to get it, or how did you get into the first yacht?
So I had a very disastrous first season. It was the worst that basically anyone had heard in the industry, which says a lot. But my first boat was the first boat I got through leaving my CV at that little office where you go and print stuff off.
Yeah, next to the blue lady.
Yes, and I was on that boat for 16 hours. So I woke up the next day with adult chicken pox.
Oh
Ooh,
no.
Shingles.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it was Cannes Film Festival time, and the crew house wouldn't take me back, so I had to go and spend all of my money on a hotel room. The Colliers, you know that one, that shithole.
Oh my god.
So I had to stay there, and I wasn't allowed out in daylight hours. So I was like a little vampire. I
How
like
long
run
were
into
you
Old
there
Town
for?
after the sunset. 10 days.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's like pre-quarantine. You had your own quarantine
I was
experience.
quarantining.
Yeah. Wow.
Such a
And
trendsetter I am.
so what happened after that when you recovered from your shingles? Were you were able to kind of go?
So the captain didn't give me my passport back.
Oh my god.
So I was traveling on a British passport. So I found out that he had come back to the boat. This is years later. I found out he'd come back to the boat the one night I was on it and just cleared the table in the bridge, which is where the captain drives, to do some activities on the table, and he just cleared everything into the bin and thrown my passport away.
Oh my god.
Oh
I
my
had to wait.
god.
I know. So I had to wait for my mum had to go into my storage unit, and I had no, like, boxes weren't labeled, so she had to go through everything and find my Australian passport and send that over. And so then she sent it over, and then I joined another boat, and we took it from Antibes down to Naples and picked up charter guests. And on the second day of charter, we were out at sea, and the engine room caught fire.
Jesus Christ, Hannah.
Oh
I
my.
tell you, it was literally, this is like the start of the worst season you've ever heard.
How you stayed in it. Good for you.
I know.
I would have been scrolling the
That's
top.
persistency.
Yeah, everyone said, like, so some of them are still friends of me now that, like, helped me at the time, but they were all like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, why did I ended the season by being driven in a tender to hospital for kidney stones. And that was like, there was so much in between, but they were like, why is she back? Like, is
Wow.
she crazy? I was like, well, firstly, yes. And like, secondly, I didn't get the experience that I wanted. Like, I was wanting to come and travel and have fun, and, you know, obviously I didn't do that. So I was going to try again.
Oh, good
Wow.
for you. Well, for people who don't know, Hannah doesn't remember, but I remember. So when I went down for my first season, I don't know if you know this, Dani. Basically I was watching Below Deck, and we were like fans of it in our old boat, and I had watched a few seasons, and for some reason there was you were on the boat, and the boat was backing up into Antibes, and I got this crazy flashback, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god. So I text my friend Kate, and I was like, is Hannah? And I barely even wrote anything else, and she's like, yeah, it is Hannah. And I was like, oh my god. So basically we kind of knew what we were talking about, and this is, I mean, probably like 7 years after I'd met you for like 15 minutes or something. And then basically my first season.
Where were we when we met, Daisy?
So it was my first season, and I was looking for my first job, so I hadn't had a job yet. And you were down by, like, kind of like the Capitanery in Antibes. It was, you know, when you have to walk behind, so you're not exactly on the international quay. It's like the smaller boats where you kind of go behind the wall and you're looking out.
Yeah.
So you were on a boat there, and this is how me and this girl Kate actually met, that we were both waiting to be interviewed, and me and Kate are still friends to this day, 9 years later. And I did the interview, and I was dying hungover.
So
like,
I interviewed you, right?
Yeah, you interviewed me.
Oh
and
my
you
god, that's so funny.
You had a French captain, and you really wanted me, but you'd just fired a girl, and he really wanted this French girl, and because you had this disaster season with these other girls, he got his way, and he's like, no, I'm hiring this French girl, and me and you were emailing back and forth. And that was the end of it. And I never saw you again. And honestly, honestly had seen a few seasons, and whatever season it was, and for whatever way, I just got this. I was like, oh my God, and text Kate straight away. She's like, yeah, that was Hannah who interviewed. And you might have been my first interview for any boat. That is a very good chance.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so for anyone who didn't know.
Yeah, it is
like,
such a small world.
I was going to say, if anyone doesn't believe yachting's a small world, it really is.
Yeah.
We're all connected.
Scary.
We all know people that know people that heard of people.
Yeah.
Just ask people.
Oh
my God.
That was an I know how
Well,
different our lives could have been.
I wish that I'd hired you, Daisy. That French chick was a bitch. So.
Well, there we go. I would have loved to have worked with you. Yeah, I was super disappointed. And yeah, so I was dying hungover, and it must have been a Sunday, and I couldn't get painkillers because in France, especially back then, there was no way a pharmacy or a shop would be open. Maybe now there would be, but and I remember wearing sunglasses. We were up in the flybridge having a chat and being like, this is so rude. And I'm saying to you, oh, I'm so sorry I'm being so rude. It's just that the sun's in my eyes. But really, I had this splitting headache and I had tears streaming down my eyes. And by the end, I was like, it's now or never. And I was like, I am so sorry, but do you think you have any painkillers? And you were like, yeah, sure, Mama. I think, I couldn't, Dani. I was like, I actually can't go the rest of the day without painkillers.
That's why I didn't get the job, Daisy.
No, I love that. Like, I love
I
that you
think-
came on. I could probably smell the alcohol on you. You asked
Yeah.
me for painkillers, and I'm like, I want to hire her.
I really wanted to find, now I don't even think I could find the email, but I really wanted to find them because we were emailing back and forth because I was like, no one's going to believe me. And you were like, I really want you, but my captain wants this French chick, blah, blah, blah. We had a good
she
vibe.
was a disaster.
So yeah, that was
I would
that
have loved to
story.
work with you, especially on that boat, because that captain was just like so loose. Like he didn't care what you spent or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, the guest totally requested like 4 cases of Dom Perignon and like 4 kilos of Alaskan crab. And then we finished charter. He's like, we've got all this booze. I'm like, oh, I know. It's
Shame.
awful.
Yeah, it's really crazy how different, like, I always think about moments like that how different your paths could have gone.
Yeah.
I'm still glad I got to meet you, even if I didn't get to work with you. And now here we are, both
Now here we are.
alum
But
Low Deck
eventually
Cheese Stews.
But how did you get your first job, Daisy? Apart from that one.
My parents worked in yachting, and I have a few aunties and uncles who did it. And when I was leaving school and trying to decide what to do, my dad was like, oh, you should go into yachting, blah, blah, blah. I honestly, because he was in the Merchant Navy, so I thought he was talking about the Navy. And I was like, this sounds horrific. Why would I ever want to do that? And I was like, point blank, like, absolutely not. I honestly thought, like, because he would say, like, oh, you wear a uniform and you clean. I honestly thought I was on top of, like, on a cargo ship or a Navy ship. And I was just like, why would I do that? No. So he was like, okay, fine. Well, if you won't do that, what about hotel management? So I really wanted to travel. So I was like, yeah, perfect. So I went and studied hotel management and ended up working in a hotel in London for 2 years. And I just hated it. I hated the hours. I hated how much I earned. I didn't mind the work. It was just the lack of recognition that just drove me crazy. So we went on a father-daughter ski trip, and I was just like, I just hate my job so much. We drank like copious amounts of rum one night, and he's like, Daisy, I'm telling you, go become a yachty. And this was 2 years later, so the internet was like easier accessible. There was this was not 2 years later. This was 7 years later than when he first mentioned it. So the internet was a different thing than it was 7 years before. So I was like, oh, I can actually Google this now and visualize it, which I did. And that was, a year after London. So a year later. But 2 years now I've been in London, and
Even I'm confused about this.
I know, I'm so confused now.
So 7 years before, he was like, go into yachting. There was no internet. I said no. So I went to university for 5 years, went to London for a year, a year into London, hated it. He convinced me to go, and then a year later, I was in Antibes. So
between 1 and 10 years after the initial conversation.
Yes, yes, exactly. You know, it was 7 years, but yeah, I finally
let's just forget about the years.
Finally got out there and went on Antibes and actually stayed with, because our university is a really small university and it's tiny, and I've actually stayed with a few girls in Cannes who were doing their placement year in a hotel there, who I'd never met before, but that's the way the university kind of works, is you kind of look out for each other. So I messaged them being like, do you mind if I stay with you? Literally the size of my bedroom, which is like a shoebox at the moment. The three of us lived in there for 5 weeks, the best 5 weeks of our lives. I'd never met these girls. I'm like, hey, I'm like, here. And then, yeah, hung out in Antibes a lot, obviously. Made friends with the bartenders in the Keys, which is another Irish bar. And they were all Irish
like Will
in there.
And stuff?
Yeah. Will and oh my god, James and Ian. Yeah. So they introduced me to someone who gave me some day work, and I got a job on a 34-meter sailboat as a sole stew, and did a couple of charters and was on there for the season in Antibes, and that was my first yachting experience 9 years ago. Yeah, which was great. I loved it.
I love how our stories are also random. We're just like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Why not? Let's try.
Well, that's the only way to get into yachting. That's all you can do is turn up in the south of France.
Especially back then. I feel like it's kind of different now. But back then it was such a cowboy industry. There was no rules. There was no laws. It was just so like, hold on, you gotta be tough.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of go with the flow. There's no, And
I think you're right.
Just go and learn.
I think because of COVID as well, that's going to change the industry massively, because I think green people are going to be able to apply online, whereas there was no way you wouldn't even look at someone without either seeing their CV on the dock or seeing them in the hot store. You just weren't going to get a job otherwise.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think COVID
the agencies would laugh at you if you had no experience, and you go to the agencies, they're like, yeah, no, you have to dock walk. Cause,
yeah.
But I do think that's going to change with COVID.
I think so too.
That's how I got my first job.
Sorry, Dani.
I'm
just going to say, I'm seeing some of my students now getting jobs from home and getting flown.
Wow.
Yeah, which is
so it's already changing.
Yeah. I mean, you would only get flown out to a job if... I only got flown out for a job once I was GSTU, and then it was pretty easy. But before that, it was like, no, you need to be there.
I think I had 2 seasons experience. Well, I had this boyfriend.
Did you guys break up and then your mum took you there? Because you've already done that one, Dani.
Well, we didn't break up yet, but I did go into yachting because of him. So,
that's like the best thing to get out of a relationship.
I guess so. He got me 7 years of yachting anyways. But I met him in Dubai while I was a flight attendant, and he was a chef, and he had already done a season of yachting, and he was tired of Dubai, and he was like, let's go to France and get a job on a yacht, because, I just don't want to be here anymore. And I was like, on a yacht? I was like, oh, I've never been on a boat, but yeah, sure.
I've never been on a boat, but yeah, let's go.
I worked on a cruise ship before, which is very different.
Yeah.
So we flew to France, and I actually in 1 week, I got 2 interviews in the Cannes port, dock walking. And at the same day, I got offered both of the jobs, and I chose one because they paid 100 euros more.
A week is good going to get 2 interviews. I was partying. Oh, by the way, fun fact, I never once dock walked.
Neither did I.
No, I couldn't.
Whatever, you guys. Whatever.
I partied hard.
I did it for like 45 minutes on one Sunday until one of this crew was like, you don't dock walk on a Sunday. I was like, oh, sorry. He's like, that's okay. We're going to the pub. Do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay.
Me and Hannah did it the old-fashioned way by partying and networking. Either way worked.
You know what was my problem? I had a boyfriend. I always had relationships in yachting, so I never like were friends with bartenders. Never partied too much because I was always in a relationship.
God,
when I wasn't in a
boring.
relationship, sorry.
Can I quickly tell you something funny while I remember?
Yeah, go ahead.
My first ever chief stew job was acquired in the hop store by beating the captain downing a pint.
Yes.
Oh my
Brilliant.
god.
And it
That
was
is
the
amazing.
perfect, interview because the owner always wanted to drink with the crew, and the chief stew was the one that kind of had to like take it for the team in a non-sexual way. But
We're gonna get into that part.
he goes, if you can down this pint quicker than me, you're coming with me to Ventimiglia tomorrow and you've got your first chief stew job. And I was like, oh mate, let's go. And he's like this old sailor Kiwi guy, and he's like, no way. I was like, what?
Wow. Yeah, for anyone
That's
who doesn't know, a
amazing.
big part of why networking and going to bars is important is because a big part of the job is to be social, and they want to see that you'll join in and you'll participate. You don't have to drink, but it's kind of comes with the territory.
It's kind of expected.
You don't have to, but kind of.
And I'm curious, Hannah, how I actually don't know this. How did you come to be on Below Deck?
Oh my gosh, this is another funny one involving a lot of alcohol.
Of course.
Of course. So no, basically I had been, oh my gosh, Dani, did you finish your story?
Yeah, well,
Sorry, that was me interrupting.
yeah, no,
I think
Daisy doesn't let me talk, Daisy rumble, and then I just I give up. Yeah, that's fine. Keep it going.
Sorry, honey. Okay, so basically I was in the Med and I'd done 5 solid seasons, and I was just at that stage where I was in Palma and I know it sounds disgusting, but I was like, ugh, Corsica, Sardinia, Amalfi Coast, Monaco, Saint-Tropez. I was just over the same scene.
Well, it's called the milk run for a reason. I mean, it is repetitive. You're not the only one to say that.
It does get a bit repetitive, and there's only like so many times you can like have a day off at Club Saint Orsay and like find it entertaining. Actually, I would die now that we've been in lockdown for a few years. I'm like, give me one day at a beach club in South of France, please.
So at this stage, how long had you been in yachting?
5 years.
Okay, yeah.
And I'd only ever done the Med. I never did the Caribbean.
Oh,
Wow.
man,
So
you missed
it was
out,
mid-season
Hannah.
after mid-season.
Oh, the Caribbean's a good one. Yeah, I hate to say
Yeah.
it.
I think I really liked with yachting, I think, because I had a friend who joined at the same time as me and she only did Caribbean and I only did Med. But I think it's like you're usually either a Med person or a Caribbean person, I find. And I was definitely the Med.
I think what's hard as well is because I ended up world traveling, so I did completely different. But what is tempting about the Med, and what I got to the point of I wanted to only do Med Caribbean, is you have your group of friends, and that I think is difficult, is why a lot of people stick to the Med, because you might be seeing someone or you don't want to leave your friends. And I really struggled by the end with the world traveling. I really missed my friends, and I'd be like in Thailand in this amazing place, and by the end of, so it was really the end of Thailand, and that was very shortly before I went on Below Deck. Yeah, I was done. I was homesick for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and I think, Daisy, that's such a good point, because I think that's what sometimes people don't realize when they're watching Below Deck, is we are in a bubble of people and we don't socialize outside of that. In normal yachting, like for me, like one of my best friends had an apartment and like lived in Antibes. So like I would finish charter and I would just go straight to my friends. So even if you're frustrated with your crew or whatever, I'd go and have a night out with my friends and go and stay at her house, and I'd come back and I'd have that time to reset. And so then I'd go like, it's your job, blah, blah, blah. And like people don't understand with below deck, it's like you never get that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't even have a phone conversation without a microphone on.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was feeling
it's
a bit like that
of
in
course
Thailand.
frustration gets,
Like in Thailand, our crew were 7. You know, you take away the captain because he's a bit older, you take away someone on holiday, you take away the engineer because he doesn't really socialize with the group,
Yeah.
and suddenly there was like me and the 2 boys, and honestly there's only so much of Bangla Road I can do with the 2 boys. Going to a fucking ping pong show, I was just like serious. And by the end I was like, I'm fucking done. And I miss that, like having my friend, being able to go for dinner, and I was crying by the end of it. And I loved the boys. Like we were close. And I was like, I need to be able to go for dinner with a girlfriend. And I can see the appeal of why people stick to the med, and you know how you kind of go into that circle.
I've definitely got like my family. By the way, I'm going to keep going, but do you mind if I told Josh we're not drinking in the week, but I told him I was doing like a podcast where you had to have a glass of wine.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I was like, Mama trained today. Mama's having a fucking wine, okay? I can still hear you guys both.
Well, I was just gonna say that for me, the worst about doing Med and Caribbean, because that's what I used to do. I used to do both seasons every year. It was the crossing. I fucking hate the crossing. I hate it. I've done it twice. And one of them I almost died because it was all the way from Holland to Fort Lauderdale. And out of 15 days, we had 13 bad weather.
Oof.
And we couldn't even work. We were all sleeping in the main salon.
Well, I have done, Dani, I'm not quite sure, but I've done around 12 Atlantic crossings, maybe 3 Pacific.
God forbid.
Yeah.
You can see my face right now.
And on a sailboat with
How
no
did I do
stabilizers.
11 years?
That's probably
11
better for
years
cystic
yachting
though.
and not one crossing.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that, Hannah. I wish I hadn't done any crossings, to be honest.
My longest was
Hated
3
crossing.
weeks. 3 weeks across the Pacific. A couple of days, no internet.
Oh, I would die.
That was actually it was very flat. It got very hot. But yeah, no, I've done some cool crossings. But go on, so we digressed a bit there. So you were in it for 5 years, sick of the milk run.
Yeah, I was a bit sick of the milk run. So I applied for a job in America. My first female captain I'd ever worked with. So I get there, and the funniest thing was I'd never been to America. So I arrived in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh my God.
The chef came to pick me up, and he's a really good friend of mine now, but he was like, this chick is crazy. Because we were driving to the boat, and I was like, oh my God, stop the car. He's like, what? I was like, pull over. He's like, okay. And I was like, oh my God, a real life trailer park. And I like wanted to walk through it, and he's like, I'm just picking you up. It's not like a fucking tour of Florida. But I was like, I've seen trailer parks in movies. This is so exciting. And I was like, but that was it. It was like I was used to being like in the pristine waters of Corsica or in Monaco or something, and what I would get excited about then was a trailer park, you know, because I hadn't seen it before.
Something new.
And the female captain was like so crazy. So I got there, and she like noticed a tattoo that big on my foot, and she was like, you didn't tell me you had tattoos in the interview. I'm like, you didn't ask. And then that evening I went outside and I had a cigarette, and someone was like, oh, you can't let the captain see you smoking. And I was like, you know what? Like, if you are really, like, if you're a boat that is picky about tattoos and smoking, then you should ask that.
Yeah,
in an
that's
interview,
completely
you know, like,
fair.
yeah, don't fly me over there. And then I was like, no, it's fine. Like, she can see me smoking. So on like day 3, she saw me smoking and pulled me into the bridge, and she's like, oh, this is a non-smoking vessel. And I was like, oh, that's great for the vessel. I smoke. So me and her started clashing heads pretty quickly. And that was my biggest thing, is I'm like, if you know, it's such a big thing. Like, so many yachties smoke and have tattoos. So just say it in the interview. So,
well, like you said, if you expect you to be honest, they have to be honest with you as well. You know, yes, a lot of boats, you know, expect you to give up their your life, but there are a lot of boats out there that don't care about tattoos and that don't care that you smoke. So no, I think that's pretty fair to
Yeah.
to mention that.
And then I got there and I realized the entire boat was couples.
Oh,
There was like one
shit.
person.
Rookie
who
era
wasn't
for
a
anybody
couple.
who is looking to getting into yachting. Probably not when you're green, but when you're more established, you ask about the crew. You find out how many couples are on board, how old the rest of the crew are,
Yeah.
and you know, because sometimes it's not just for it's just not for you. And I never work with couples, because of that, because I'm single.
Nothing wrong
and
with
it's-
being a couple on a yachty, okay?
well, it's not very fun. I can tell you now, as a single person working with a load of couples, and
not.
especially antisocial couples. No, it is important. It is important.
That's exactly what they were. There was like one young guy, a deckhand, who was like not in the couple. But the rest of them, they were like on their breaks, they would want to like watch The Simpsons. And when we drop off charter, they'd want to go to like couples dinners. And like on my break, I used to want to like get the tender in and go exploring and go and do a hike, or, you know, no, let's be serious. I want to sit on the beach and drink wine and smoke cigarettes.
When you start saying I want to go on a hike, I was like, really? Did you?
Occasionally I used to do it if it was a small island and I could hike to the top and see the view. And I also realized that trip from Jacksonville, Florida up to New York is really not pretty. I was like, it was all industrial with these big smoking things, and I was like, maybe fucking Amalfi Coast wasn't after all. But I'd gone out in Charleston, which I loved. I loved Charleston in South Carolina, and got wasted with this deckhand one night. And he's like, oh, do you know that they're casting for the chief steward Below Deck Med? He had to tell me this because I didn't remember. And I was literally ironing the next day, and I was like, "Oh, I'm dying."
But did
I'm
you
so
know what
hungover. And
Below
he came-
Deck Med was at that stage?
Below Deck Med wasn't anything back then, honey.
Oh, you were the first.
Yeah, because Hannah was the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Below Deck had done like two seasons maybe, but it wasn't big. I kind of knew there was a show about yachting, but didn't know anything about it. And so we applied for it that night drunk with a fucking video, like, and sent it off.
Production
I've
loved
seen
that.
the video. Are you? No, you're not. Are you in a jet ski wearing a life jacket?
No.
Okay, that's someone else.
I hope not at 3 o'clock in the morning after being out in Charleston all fucking night. I wasn't, but maybe I was.
Was that how you applied? You did, like, back then? I don't know, because
That
obviously it
was-
was different.
Yeah. So I didn't even know if they asked for a video, but he came to me the next day and I was so hungover, and he's like, oh, do you remember like applying for Below Deck Med last night? I was like, no, what are you talking about? And I went into my sent emails. I was like, oh my God, what have you done? So I forgot about it. And then like I basically, a relief captain came in to take over from this woman, which was like very lucky. But I maybe got like a tiny bit drunk one night, like off charter, and threw up on the dock and then went to sleep. And then the next day they were like, I don't think you're a good fit for this boat. And I was like, can I just sleep for 2 more hours and then you fire me?
It's like, I can't pack my bag right now. You're like, it just...
No.
Oh my
I
God,
was like,
that's
I cannot
so
deal with
funny.
this right now. And so, but it worked out perfectly because I was going to quit anyway. But then this captain felt so bad for me that I was like, oh, we were in Newport. And I was like, do you mind getting my flight out of New York? And he's like, yeah, of course. And then like, here's money for food for the next few days. And here's money
that's
for
nice.
transport. And
Aw.
like handed me like, he was the sweetest thing. And especially after dealing with this devil woman for like a few months. And so then I went to New York and with a lifesaver from Ireland that I'd met one night while I was out in Newport.
Amazing.
So we had a few nights in New York, and then I flew back, and then I decided I was kind of done with yachting. And so then my whole interview process for Below Deck Med, I was following a music festival around Croatia and partying in the Greek islands. So I used to forget that I would have a Skype, and I was like, they'd be like, "Hey, Hannah, like we're online," and I was like, "Oh, fuck, I'm wasted at a beach club."
Which they
So I
would have
definitely didn't
loved.
take it
They
too
would have been like,
Yeah.
obviously in retrospect, they're like, this is perfect.
Exactly. She is gold. She forgets everything.
Yeah.
She's always drunk. She's
Perfect.
hired.
Hired.
So, and then, yeah, I think, yeah, and then I got the job. And to me, I kind of went like, you know, like a lot of people do below deck now, and I'm not sure, especially, I know it sounds horrible, but especially Americans who are like, oh, I've never watched the show, or like, I don't know, like, even back then, this was mid 2015, and when you're traveling like that, where you don't have a lot of money, you're going out a lot. Good night, baby. I love you. You know, you're traveling a lot. You don't have money, so you're not on Wi-Fi and that sort of stuff. I'd seen a few clips on YouTube, but I really had no idea what I was getting in for. I just knew that with how much tips I made, I could kind of make up for the fact that I just spent the last 4 months following a music festival around Croatia, you know?
Yeah, and at that stage, no, I think it's incredibly brave. And obviously at the time you were leaving yachting anyway. You know, you probably wouldn't have done it if you were still planning and staying for a few more years. But at that stage, it's like, well, what do I have to lose? You might as well.
Yeah.
That's why I joined Below Deck.
And I do.
And everyone in yachting told me don't do it.
Yeah, well, but
Yeah.
And I was like, for what? Like, why?
it wouldn't have been a smart move if you did still want to be in yachting. But the fact that you were like, well, I want to leave anyway. And obviously, I completely agree that believe you that you didn't really watch the show because it really wasn't big back then. And it's really only kind of blown up in the last few years, especially for people in Europe getting access to it. But I think it's crazy when I've met a few people now who haven't watched it and who've been on the show, and I'm like, why would you do that? To me, that's really, really strange. It's very different from when you did it,
weird.
but 7 years ago or whatever. But now I'm like, that's a huge risk to walk into something and you've no idea what you're walking into. You know, I was the same. I was ready to leave yachting, and with the whole COVID experience, I lost my job, and this came up, and it was kind of the same thing you were going through. I was like, well, I have nothing to lose. I want to leave yachting anyway, but there's no way I would have done it without watching it and knowing.
No, well, like, especially as well, Daisy, because like the only place that I could really access even the Bravo clips was France.
Yeah.
And that was when I was deep into the process, and like, people in America, they're so used to having everything very quickly and technology and stuff, and they don't understand that, like, in France and Greece and things like that, you can't just go onto a different VPN and download, like, it doesn't, well, especially for someone like me who hardly knows how to turn a computer on, it doesn't work like that,
And maybe now it would be a bit easier, but definitely not 7 years ago.
but like, this was 2015, like,
wow, well,
it was still very
good for you
new.
for taking that leap of faith and putting your hands in the hands of Bravo and 51 Minds.
And you know what, Daisy, I will tell you one thing, like, so many people say to me, they're like, especially with how things ended, they're like, do you regret doing it or anything like that? And I'm like, no, because I don't live my life like that. Like, I believe I'm so grateful for everything that Below Deck Med has brought into my life. Like, I've had experiences that you can't pay for. I've just bought a house. Like, there is a lot that it's given me, and I don't have any sort of shame around
and you
how I left.
And you shouldn't, because, I mean, really what you got fired for, let go or whatever, wasn't going to impact your life that bad. It wasn't like you, I don't know, like broke the MLC rule or whatever. If you want to, if we're not going to get into it,
Maritime law, Daisy. Maritime
we're
law.
I know. You know,
I'm surprised you never heard of maritime law, Daisy, all these years.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't like it was something serious or, you know, the actual law. Like, you didn't go to, do you know what I mean? That, like, what you really got let go for was a difference in opinion, kind of per se. And
Exactly.
yeah, something that, you know, someone felt there was a rule broken and, you know, whatever. It wasn't something like you were, you know, you bullied someone or you took Class A drugs on board or something. That might have been a bit more shameful. Well, maybe you wouldn't, maybe, I don't know. But what you got, at the end of the day, what you got let go for was a difference in opinion. And,
well, I feel like as well, it's like, you know, it was kind of so bizarre to me because I was like wondering how it was gonna be perceived when it was like, it's been aired. It's not something that's been hidden for years. It's been aired that I have anxiety. I've spoken about taking medication for anxiety. Everyone knows I take medication for anxiety. Like, how's this quite gonna play forward? And it's like, if you want to get me on a technicality that I didn't declare medication, like the amount of, like, God bless her cotton socks, Courtney from Below Deck, like, did the funniest tweet of her showing up with this hospital bag. And she's like, this is how I rocked up to Below Deck and I didn't declare any of it. It's like everyone has medication on board. I know many, many times that Sandy has known that people are taking prescription meds and they've never been declared. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, let's go down this path if it you know, helps you sleep.
And obviously, you know, like you said, a technicality, like whatever was going on between you and Sandy, and sometimes people want to get rid of someone and they will, you know, pick anything up. I've had it with me as well, and I'm like, this is bullshit that I'm being called up on this when everyone else is doing it. I'm like, let's get to the point. You don't like me. Let's, you know, be adults.
And that's what
this.
I think it was, and I think, to be honest, it probably wasn't the first time that she had given it a red hot go. But I think this time was like maybe like production had their hands tied a little bit because she could go, this is a law, rah, 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 you know, as opposed to like, oh, her flowers weren't nice on her table decor.
Yeah. This is something, she could kind of threaten them with. And I think, you know, like you said, it all kind of worked out because I think, I felt like as a viewer, you could tell you were kind of over it. You know, what you see is what you get.
Do you know what? It's so true. And like, I was never dishonest. I wasn't the little cheerleader for yachting towards the end, you know? I was over it. And like a lot of people, I was going to work for my paycheck because I got bills to pay and I want to buy a house and, you know, like.
But that's the whole point of the show, is to see, you know, reality. And at the end of the day, you know, you were
evolution of yachting.
Yeah, you've been there for 4 years, you were in your 30s, you'd met someone, you know, and that's the reality of yachting. And like you said, the evolution. And, you know, that's what the show wants. They want to show the real depiction. And of course, you're going to be at a different point in your life 4 years on or 5 years on. And, you know, you were ready to move home. And I think these things do push you into encouraging you to go and follow sometimes what you don't have the courage to do yourself. So you being let go was just kind of what everyone was feeling, what everyone was wanting, and you're like, yeah, brilliant, I'll go home and have my baby. And you know,
exactly.
And
and look, it's so funny because it's like, even, you know, I've even been asked a lot, like, if you knew what was coming, but like, do you regret doing the last season? And it's like, you know, I think no one's stupid. We don't get paid like normal yachting after each and every season. So it's like, you know what? Look, at the end of the day, like, I've come home, I've got my daughter, I've got my partner, we've got our house and things like that. And doing one more season helps with that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
every season, you know, you're going to get more following, you're going to get more support. No, I think you definitely did the right thing. And you getting let go, I think, really just kind of made you more famous and kind of, you know, showed more support. And obviously, like you said, you don't know how the public are going to perceive the show. and how it's going to be edited. But you know, it kind of worked out in your favor. I think it was very clear people were team, you know, Hannah. I mean, for me, to be honest, I'm like, oh, I'm staying well out of it. But
oh, Daisy, I know whose team you're on. Is Sandy on your podcast next week, bitch?
I'm staying well out of this. Don't be dragging me into this. But I think, yeah.
So, guys, just for the listeners at home, Daisy used to message me and she was like, oh my God, Sandy is the worst person in the whole wide world. I'll print them on my Instagram story tomorrow.
Oh, gosh. You'll see, I'll be like on Below Deck Med next year. I'm like, oh God. No, but no, I think
please don't hate me as much as you hated him.
No, I think it massively worked out for you in the end. I think the show, you know, showed how much support you kind of had, you know, and the support with your anxiety. And it really was a technicality. It was a bit too far, but I think, you know, I think maybe it was just a difference in opinion. And she wanted you gone, but it, you know, like you said, it worked out fine in the end. And these, you know, what's for us won't go by us. And I think you definitely did the right thing by doing the last season. And yeah,
exactly. And like you said, Daisy, it's like if you'd walked away and go, oh, I'm off to start my family, that's like a nice little sweet exit. But, you know, I'd kind of prefer to leave with a bang anyway. So.
Exactly. That's what you got to do. Well, this is my thing. You know, I left yachting with a bang and it did Below Deck. And, you know, people like us who are like extrovert and flamboyant and, you know, you can't do anything half-arsed. It has to be the full, I'm going to, you know, really exactly go out with a bang. So you did it. It wouldn't have been Hannah's style if you just left and it's like, okay, I'm done.
Exactly. Who wants to leave quietly? Hi, Lily.
She agrees. She's just agreeing with you guys.
Lily is like, I am Team Hannah too.
Well, I love that story. And I guess, I mean, the final thing kind of me and Dani wanted to ask about was your the Ocean Training Academy and, you know, how you started that and how you came up with that idea and, you know, where people can find you guys and give us a bit of an insight into that.
Yeah, no, so it was amazing. So we just had our first birthday as a company.
Congratulations.
Which obviously is in lockdown, so there's not much you can do, but it was nice. But basically I was 7 months pregnant, and I would just, the whole time I was on Below Deck, I would constantly get asked how to join yachting. And I just basically had an idea. I was like, why don't, you know, 'cause you can try and help out as many people as you can. And I do the same thing with people who message me with their anxiety. I'm like, I try and respond to as much as possible, but I can only physically as one person do so much.
No, it's a lot. Like me and Dani get a lot, and you've got, you know, almost 1 million followers.
Way more, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't even keep up.
And it's like, it's super overwhelming, and I feel so bad not responding, but I'm like, I have a child and a business and a home, and like I have a life, and I can't help everyone. And that's how I felt a year ago when I started Ocean International. Is I was like, I want to take all the knowledge I have in the past kind of 10 years, all the knowledge my friends have that are other chief stewards, captains, first mates, and all of that, and put it together into basically an online training platform, but also break it up. So we've broken it up into like a bronze course, which is like the who, how, why, what, when, where of yachting. And that I always recommend students do that, so then they can actually see the nitty gritty, because I'm sure both of you know how many yachting places around the world go, do you want to like live on a super yacht and travel the world, and it's so glamorous and beautiful, and it's not. It's
nothing like that.
Yeah,
it is hard work.
It's hard work.
I loved how many people messaged me after Below Deck, like my friends, my best friends, being like, wow, you work really hard. I'm like, I have been trying to tell you. Like, it only took me to go onto a reality TV show for you to see the bullshit I have to deal with.
Prove it to you. Yeah. No, but it is, and I like the fact that we are a super honest company. If anyone comes to me, if they have any like little hesitancies around pricing. I'm like, you need to understand that apart from like this, you need your SDCW, which costs this, your ENG1, which costs this, like potentially going to a yachting hub, which costs this. So please don't take my course if you don't have the finances to back up this as well, because I would never want to feel like I was taking advantage of anyone or ripping them off. So
but it's,
we are a very,
with yachting, it definitely, for anybody out there, you have to make money, you have to spend money. That's with anything in life. And yachting, it seems so overwhelming, the initial expenses, but you make that back in your first month, your first charter tip,
in your first month.
So it is, for everyone out there who is interested, it is an expensive thing to start, but 9 years later, that's so a drop in the ocean.
I tell you. And it is, and that's so basically, like, I realized that, I took a comment from Sandy very personally when she told me I wasn't passionate about yachting because my table decor wasn't good enough. And I was like, I love having guests come on and showing them the time of their lives and still being up, like making shots for them at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, I'm not passionate about it just because I'm not a creative, so I can't put a table together like that. I do have passion about it, but it's so nice because my passion for it has morphed into me being passionate into helping other people get into the yachting industry. So we have the bronze course, which is the starter, and then the silver, it's a very intense, like, how to actually do the job of both a green deckhand and a green stewardess. And as Daisy, as you know, as a chief stewardess, like, if you had a greenie come in and know the difference between silver service and Russian service, you'd be like, you know what? It's not even the fact that you know the difference. It's that you've taken the time and the forethought to do research or train yourself into knowing the difference. Like, I can teach you, like, how to do the job. I can't teach you the hunger to do it
initiative.
Well.
I always say that initiative is such a powerful thing, and doing something like your course already shows initiative, that you get up, you see what needs to be done, and you go and get that yourself. I completely agree with you. Anyone can be a stewardess or a deckhand, but you can't learn intuition or teach it. And
no, and we've got like students all over the world. We do monthly calls with them. And it's so nice. Like, one of them at the moment is working in a bar in Ireland, and she's like staying late to practice all her cocktail making skills.
Oh, cute!
And like,
so sweet.
That was like Ali coming on with.
Sends me like a new napkin.
Oh, that was like Ali came on with
like
her
just
flashcards
so
of her cocktails, and I think she had done a course as well, not yours, but something similar. And I was like, wow, I was super impressed. I was like, wow. I was like, that shows someone who's willing to learn and work hard.
It shows the initiative. And the other thing as well is, like, let's be honest, it's a very small industry, and having, 2 people on your side who have 17 years experience and 17 years of contacts doesn't hurt our students either. But to me, that's like second to learning the actual job itself.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing idea. And I think one of the other benefits of your courses is, we have, like, let's be realistic, the industry, because of Below Deck, is becoming saturated. It's, it was already hard to get a job before, and now
Daisy, it's not. No. Do you know what's crazy?
Well, yeah, I guess
I have crew agents contacting me going, please send me people.
I actually don't know why I said that. Really, I was actually going to say, I was actually thinking that, and I was like, I get phone calls all the time looking for people.
You're like, why am I saying what I'm saying?
That is true. But I do.
Did you drink today, Daisy?
I am hungover. I was out yesterday, but no. But I do think it kind of gives you that extra. But it is, everyone wants to be a yachty now because of Below Deck, and you're like, well, what's your experience? And they're like, oh, well, I've watched a show or whatever. And I think, having your course behind you gives you that extra edge and that extra.
And helps you have realistic expectations as well. It's not just traveling and having fun, it's actually work.
It is, and that's what I'm the one thing I always said about my company, because I used to get really annoyed, there was companies in America and South Africa that were very much selling people a dream, and then they were coming on the yacht and they were like, it's 8 p.m, why am I still working? I started at 7. I'm like, well, because this is yachting. So the one thing when I started Ocean International was like, I want people to know the reality behind below deck, behind what other people sell you. Like, I want you to go into this knowing what you're going to get into, so that you're not going to call me in 3 months' time crying when you haven't slept in a week, you know?
Yeah. No, I had heard of definitely a company in South Africa that was very bad for doing that and sending people over to the south of France, and none of them were getting jobs, because I don't know what it was like now, but they were obviously all hanging out at the hop store and stuff, partying hard. 3 months later, they're like, oh, I didn't get a job. You know, they were told, if you do this course, go to Antibes, you're going to get a job.
Then you're guaranteed.
Yeah, and it's like, no, that's...
And that's the thing, is I tell my students, I'm like, like I get a lot of messages saying, if I do your course, am I guaranteed to get a job? I'm like, absolutely not. The only person that can guarantee you that you will get a job is someone who owns a yacht.
Yeah.
Or yourself.
Like,
I think if
no one
you
else
have
can
the I think if
guarantee
you have the determination, you can guarantee yourself. If you go out there going, I will not leave
Yeah,
until...
but then it's just on you. Yeah, you've got to like put in the effort. You've got to go and hustle. You can't... I love like being able to place a student with a crew agent I know and them getting a job through them, and that's fantastic. But that's not the normal path. You need to be able to... I didn't have any of that. I didn't have anything handed to me. So as much as I want to help my students, a lot of yachting is about doing it yourself as well. You can't have your mom there doing your CV for you. I've had literally students go, my mom's sending you my CV. And I'm like, I'm not doing it then. You need to do it yourself, because,
Crazy. And where can...
You're going to be on your own in the big bad world.
It really is a big bad world. Be prepared.
It really is.
And where can people find your course if they're interested in signing up or, reading into it?
Yeah, of course. So you can always head to my Instagram, and the Ocean International Instagram's in my bio. We're doing webinars now bi-weekly, where you can come on, like if you don't want to make the initial investment and you just want to learn more about it, you can join our mailing list at oceaninternationaltrainingacademy.com and just come on a webinar. It's completely free. You can ask questions. We have a chat. It's Ocean INT Training Academy on Instagram.
Awesome. Well,
and also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're gonna put the link down below, so you can just click on it as well.
Thanks, Dani.
Well, good for you
problem.
and Anastasia for doing that. I think it's a very smart idea, and definitely coming from me and Dani, who also know that a lot of people message us being like, how do you get into yachting? And I think it's a great way to direct people. And
refer to the following video now.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to chat to you both. I love both of you, and it's always so much fun. And Dani, I'm sorry we're in lockdown and I haven't been able to come and see you and Lily, but once we're out, we're going to have you both over for a play date to the new house.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So we can play together.
Yeah, congratulations on the house again, hon, and thank you so much for doing this with us. It was a pleasure for us, as always.
Of course. It's honestly, I loved your guys' season. Josh and I used to be so excited when it was coming out.
We had a good season.
You're both entertaining and amazing.
Thank you. You're so sweet. And obviously we love having you on, and please come back again and in the future, and hopefully you guys will see each other soon, and hopefully the borders will open and I can come and visit. Fingers crossed.
Well, you have a spare room, Daisy.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited.
I've got a mortgage, so if you supply the champagne, I'll supply the accommodation.
Perfect. I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I don't have a house, a husband, a baby. I can bring the champagne. I'm fine with that.
Done.
Okay, great.
Well,
we'll leave it there, and see you later.
Bye.